We'll have our chief guest of the day to give an insight on stress management. We have our guest speaker of the day, Mr. Samuel Alton Yeshwant, with us. So I request sir to take over the session now.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, students. I hope all of you are doing well. I'm not sure how long I can continue my video. I might have to turn my video off here pretty soon because of my internet connectivity as well. But I would like to thank Father, I would like to thank Principal and Mr. Felix and all the respected staff and teachers for giving me this opportunity to talk to students. Okay, there goes my video. Okay, I'm going to continue with the audio if you students don't mind. Thank you very much for giving me your listening ears this morning. We're going to be talking about a very important issue on stress management. As ma'am has already explained, and as you have been told about our topic of this discussion for today. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Samuel Olson. I do run an NGO called Who Are My Missions International. And the big picture of what we do is anti-human trafficking work. Most of what I am involved in, my everyday activity involves a lot of stress, doing anti-human trafficking work, whether it is from rescuing girls that are in brothels to working against human traffickers, doing awareness sessions in colleges. So I kind of bring my personal experience to the table when I'm going to be talking about stress management and how this has actually helped me when I was able to manage stress to actually live a better quality of life than be crumbled under the weight of stress. Let me start with this. What's the world saying about stress in India? Well, the stress levels seem to be very high in India compared to other countries, both developed and emerging countries. There are surveys that have been conducted by Cigna, the TTK Health Insurance, which says about 89% of Indian population say they are suffering from stress compared to the global average of 86%. Out of which 75% of the respondents do not feel comfortable to talk to any medical professional about the stress that they are enduring in their life. Another survey published on Business Today says 9 out of 10 Indians suffer from stress. The same survey actually declares that millennials in India lead the most or stressed people in the world. Studies show that 95% of Indian millennials who range from the age of 18 to 34 admit of being more stressed out than their worldwide cohorts. These are now alarming statistics, students, especially for a nation like ours that thrives on relaxation techniques like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, etc. Stress, we know, can have grave implications on the health and the well-being of an individual. Now, we also know long periods of stress and the results that it brings, whether it is depression, whether it is what Sir was talking about a couple minutes ago, about a family, a student being frustrated. You know, I heard somebody say depression means frozen rage. That's what depression is about. And it's true, you know, a long periods of stress can cause frozen rage inside of you, which finds dysfunctional ways to manifest itself. So it can be in bursting out in anger, saying words you would later on regret, doing things physically that harm others or yourself. It could even be, sadly, what we are seeing in Bangalore right now is suicide. I have a personal story. Just this Monday, I was attending the funeral of one of the gym instructors in my area who had basically died at the age of 40 with a 1.5-year-old daughter. And the story with him goes because he had a massive heart attack, and it all points back to the condition of his heart and how he couldn't deal with the immense stress that he was under. Having looked at the stats about stress, let me also say that it's not all gloom and doom, guys, because not all stress is bad. Now, I had to learn this the hard way, but nevertheless, when I learned it, it's brought a lot of freedom in my life. But because I said it's not all gloom and doom and not all stress is bad, I need to clarify that statement as well. I like what Lou Holtz actually says, and I'd love to say this to you, students. I speak in many, many colleges, especially about anti-human trafficking, and do a lot of counseling work and things like that. And I love seeing students. I love being in the room with you, face to face, having conversations. So this is a little weird and awkward at the same time. And also have to say this: talking to you guys has been such a struggle in the sense, not from your side, but even for me, from yesterday, it has been such a battle to be able to get things sorted out. I was traveling, I had to get back in time. I came to my office. I was about to send my PowerPoint to the principal this morning, father this morning, and my system crashed. And I was sitting there thinking, what in the world is wrong with this session? Why am I struggling? Why so many hindrances to talk to these lovely students this morning? So though we don't have PowerPoint, though we have limited access to things right now and internet connectivity and et cetera, the list goes on. I really believe that this is a conversation that needed to happen, and we are going at it no matter what happens, what hindrances come our way, and this is going to be beneficial to all of us. Getting back to what Lou Holtz says, he said, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. It's not the stress that kills you, it's what you do with the stress, how you respond to the stress. So I told you not all stress is bad. The question today is, if you are stressed, do you know what you're carrying? If you're stressed, do you know, or do you have the understanding of how to carry it? Right? So let's talk about stress. I believe you guys are taking good notes. I want you to take good notes. I'm going to say a few things that I would love for you to write down, and then have some thinking time after this call, after this session, where you can do some self-analysis and come out not as a victim but as a victor. Let's talk about stress, guys. Stress is inevitable. As ma'am said a few minutes ago, it's something that you can't avoid, you can't run away from in life. Stress is going to meet you at all different corners of life. And so let's be geared for it. Let's know how to manage it, because we know that it's an inevitable situation in our life. Okay, so what is stress? Hey, let's come to the basic question. What is stress? Stress is defined in so many different ways. It says stress can be defined as our mental, physical, emotional, and behavioral reactions to any perceived demands or threats. Let me say that again. Stress can be defined as our mental, physical, emotional, and behavioral reactions to any perceived demands or threats. Stress is where the demand starts to rise above your resources. Now, I'm going to explain my statements as I've just made them. Hans Selye, the founder of the stress theory, who also was the first one to incorporate stress into the medical lexicon, basically describes it this way: the non-specific response of the body to any demand placed on it is called stress. Okay, the non-specific response, that means there has been placed the demand on you, all right, which the body does not accurately know how to respond to, all right. But I have to make a truth claim here. Stress is something that we almost require to function successfully. That's why in the beginning I said not all stress is bad. A certain amount of stress is required for us to actually function successfully. All right. Stress is something that is required for our body to kick into action. And let me explain that. In life, we have certain demands that life presents to us. Those demands can be physical, can be environmental. Those demands can be biological. As humans, how we address these demands with the resources we have determines if we are going to be stressed or not. Let me give you an example. Now, say for example, I'm hungry, right? We're all getting towards afternoon, and afternoon is a time when we nowadays, being home so much, start to smell all the neighbors' wonderful cooking. It does create some sort of a desperation inside of us for need of a good meal, right? Now, say for example, I'm hungry, and when I'm hungry, I have food at my house, and I go and eat. When I eat, what happens? The demand, which is hunger, the feeling of hunger, the uncomfortable sensation, that a slight stress that comes through that hunger, which causes the demand, is now met by the resource, which is my ration at home, right? That's met by that resource. And when that happens, the outcome is not tension, is not stress, it's satisfaction. So I'm hungry, that's the feeling of stress, but I have a resource at home, and the resource is my ration that's feeding me. Therefore, when ration meets the resource, there is a sense of satisfaction, not stress. I'm cold. If I wear warm clothes, when I was a college student, I was studying in the US, just about 45 minutes away from Niagara Falls, and it was tremendously cold. 6 months of the year, it was heavily cold. And I signed up to be on the snow shovel crew in the initial days, having no idea what that meant. So for the next 6 months, they gave me a shovel in my hand and asked me to shovel snow. I was excited initially, but about a week down from shoveling snow, I decided, my gosh, this is so hard. I hate this thing. Cold is so difficult to manage and bear. Now, at that time, when I was given warm clothes, my demand, feeling cold, had, the fear of frostbite and whatnot, was met by the resource. And at that time, I could feel a lot more comfortable dealing with the tough situation that I wasn't used to. Another example, when you need to pay your college fees, right? Mom and dad are able to do it without any struggle, without much difficulty. What happens? Demand is met by resource. You are not stressed out. There's no struggle that you go through. Rather, there is a sense of peace and there's a sense of satisfaction there. So when a demand is placed on us, it does cause a certain feel of either unease or stress. But it also does a good thing which causes us to spur into action. So therefore I'm saying not all stress is bad. Some amount of stress is good. Like when your teacher says to you, this is the deadline, you have to get your assignment in by such and such a date, it causes a little bit of a stress. And that stress is actually good because that actually helps you now to spur into action and to meet your deadline and get it done. But there's a problem when your stress actually goes beyond your expectation. It goes beyond what you can meet, right? In terms of your stress is beyond your resources, then it begins to cause a problem. So, all right. Now, when our demands are something that our resources cannot meet, it's going to cause stress. It's going to cause us more unease, and that's what we want to learn how to cope with. Okay. Now, when not only with our demands, but when stress is increasing in our life, there are two ways stress presents itself. One is psychologically, second is physically. All right. So I want you to watch some of these things as we are talking about this. I wanted to take good notes. Okay. Some of the causes of stress, I already told you the one major one where your demand, when it's not met by your resources, it causes a lot of unease, it causes stress. Okay. There are also other causes of stress that I would like to talk about. We can put them in two different sections. The first one is internal causes, and the second one is external causes. Now you really want to pay attention to these things. Okay. I like what Felix sir said when he was addressing the class. He said, basically, I'll paraphrase it. He said, we live out of our convictions. Now, this is psychology. This is true. Every human being lives out of their belief system, right? What you believe is what you are living. Why did you take arts? Why did you take a certain stream for your education? Because you have a certain belief system that if you take this stream of education, there will be this as the end result, and that will aid you with life, with finances, etc., etc. We all live out of our belief system, right? And so that is how we as human beings function. So when I say we live out of our belief system, it's important for us to pay attention to what our belief system, what the condition of our heart is. All right. Many times when we look about internal causes for stress, we see a few reasons why or what internal causes that are there in our hearts that basically causes stress in us. One is I would like to talk about chronic worry. All right. Now, as a counselor, I meet with a lot of students, and sometimes I tend to hear stories as I'm listening to them. I'm starting to think about it and say, wait a minute, actually, you are worried about nothing. But worry is such a part of your life. You're chronically worried. It's like some people, they have to make it a habit to worry about things, right? Okay, exams coming. I'm worried. What are you worried about? Don't you have a plan in place? Don't you have a plan of action? Don't you have revisions going on? Don't you have teachers that are teaching you and are preparing you for your exam? But there's still a sense of worry. And if they don't worry, they feel they're missing some things in life. And it's almost like a constant need to worry, right? And when I've highlighted that and asked my student, do you see that there's a pattern in your life that you seem to worry about things, which is almost like a normal for you? And the sad reality is they've never really thought about it. They've never even thought that they actually worry about everything in life. And see, that is a problem, because sometimes this is what I call it. I call it mindless living. Sometimes we tend to live mindlessly, especially about ourselves. We are too involved and occupied with others' lives and other stories and gossips and whatnot, that we are too careless about what's happening within inside of us. So, firstly, I would like to ask you, or as you're writing down, in your think time, I would like you to ask yourself, do I have chronic worry inside of me? Do I worry about things unnecessarily? Or do I sit down and take stock and say, what am I worried about? Why am I worried about? I need facts for my worry and put things in its place. Another internal cause for that kind of spurs stress along the way is negative self-talk. Again, with my experience with students, there's a lot of because of our culture. There's another topic that I talk about called wounds. And when I deal with students, we talk about wounds and how wounds have progressed into dysfunctional behavior, etc., etc. And sometimes we tend to find out in theology, I said theology, sorry, in psychology, we call it prolonged duress. We find the symptom of prolonged duress in a lot of students. What that is, for example, you grew up in a home where somebody kept saying, you're not good at studies because you're not getting good marks. So somebody said, you're too dark, or you're too ugly, or you got a big nose, or whatever it is, different statements that was constantly said about you for a long period of time. Okay, and over that period of time, because of what was constantly being said, that got written on your heart, that got written into your the psychological makeup of who you are, and you now believe in that very thing about yourself. Okay, and when this starts to happen, you actually start to have negative conversations with yourself. Now, how does this relate to stress? I have seen a lot of students, as I've talked to them, come with this issue of negative self-talk, where they are stressed out because of what they are saying to themselves. Not necessarily verbally, but think about this. When you are thinking, what's going on? You're actually talking to yourself, right? And when you begin to negatively see yourself, or because of what somebody said about you for so long, and you have believed that very thing, and now when exam comes, now you start to say, oh my gosh, I've always been told that I'm not good at studies. Now I have an exam coming, and you're stressed out because there is a belief, a negative self-talk inside of you that's telling you that you can't do well. Think about COVID-19 right now. A lot of people in COVID-19 have been saying, well, my area where I live in, for example, right now is a containment zone. And my neighbor got COVID-19. I have 3 children, and my youngest daughter is 4 months old. And everybody said, you got to move right away because your neighbor has COVID-19. And there was definitely, we have to walk in wisdom. We have to analyze things and be careful. I'm 100% with that. But on the other hand, there's a lot of fear when you watch the news, when you see what people are saying around you. You start to believe those things, and that begins to cause a lot of unnecessary stress. What are you saying to yourself? What is the self-talk? Is it negative? Is it positive? Is it optimism? Is it scaring you? You got to now take stock of what's the talk, the self-talk that's happening inside of you. That's important for, again, another internal cause of stress is self-talk, negative self-talk. The third one I would say is pessimism. like the first one that I said, this is a tendency to see the worst aspect of things or to believe that the worst will happen. This is also a lack of hope or confidence in the future, where there are people who have no sense of hope for the future at all because of where they are in life right now. And that causes stress, and that stress basically cripples them. And I even say this, that kind of a stress will kill your vision for life. So don't allow pessimism to take over. Another thing I would say is unrealistic expectations, whether it comes from your parents, whether you have set unrealistic expectations on yourself. It's time to take those things as well. A funny story, when I was a little, when I was young, when I was in college, I used to believe that I should play basketball, NBA basketball, for the NBA in the US. And I kind of understood at that time that was an unrealistic expectation because I didn't have all the facility to train that way. Nowadays we definitely do. But back in 99, 2000, by which I'm probably dating myself right now, we didn't have that kind of facility in India to gear up for an NBA game, all right? So when I started to see that I was not making it, I wasn't making the cut, definitely it started to bring in a lot of low self-esteem and definitely a lot of stress as well. So expectations, what kind of expectations that you have about yourself? Take stock, think about it. I'm not asking you to think low of yourself, but I'm asking you to think appropriately of yourself. There's a big difference there, right? So unrealistic expectations can also bring in a lot of stress. Sometimes those kind of unrealistic expectations come from our peers, our parents, and I think there has to be conversations that sort those out. My elders believe that I should have gotten into commerce and I should have gotten into business and etc. Whereas that was my dream, that wasn't my vision. Now, when that's the case, what do I do about that? You have to sit down and clarify your expectations, your vision in life, and your purpose that you are pursuing, so that those expectations shouldn't be on you and they shouldn't be causing you to stress out. Okay, so these are some. I would like to talk about a few external causes as well. A few external causes. Financial is a big cause that definitely causes stress on our lives, right? So as you are progressing from college to getting into your work and whatnot, have a plan. I always say this, when you have a plan, it helps you so much along the way. When I was in college studying in the US, my dad called me the first semester and he said, look, I can't pay your fees because every semester my dad had to pay about $6,500. And my dad said, that's a lot of money for me to afford right now. I can't pay $6,500 for every 4 months. So you either come back to India or you're going to have to work and support yourself. You have to make a decision very quick. And so I made the decision of saying, you know what, let me give it a try. At least for a semester, I'm going to try and do all the work as a student, even if it's 20 hours a week. I'm going to try to put in the work and see what I can do, and then try to pay off a little bit at a time. Well, I started, God was favorable to me, and I got blessed with a good job. I got a social security. Sooner or later, I was working pretty much, a lot of hours, and I was probably the first student to leave my college on the graduation day with no debt at all, with zero debt. And that was because when I started my first job on my campus, my first job was dishwasher in the cafeteria. And my cafeteria, the supervisor in the cafeteria walked up to me and he said, look, you're an Indian and you're going to leave, you're going to graduate this college with a ton of debt on your head. That's usually what happens. But then he said, then there's another thing that you could do, is you can swim against the stream and you can actually make this happen on graduation day. You can be one of those rare Indians that's leaving college or that's graduating from college without any debt. That was a challenge. So I asked him, what should I do? He said, what's your plan financially? He said, if you're earning, say, $100, put about, say, $35 into savings, right? And then use the rest for your education, for your food and whatnot, your hostel stay and et cetera, et cetera. Having a plan at the end of the day helped me to overcome this external stress that could have crushed me. All right. So as I continued down this road, financial problems. So what I'm saying to you is, what's your plan? what's your strategy to handle when that stress comes? All right, keep thinking about that simultaneously. Another external cause, relationships. We are, as humans, we are relational human beings. We are relational people. We are relational with friends, with opposite sex, with family members, etc., etc. When relationships break, when relationships take a hit, causes a lot of stress, right? Being too busy is another external factor where it causes a lot of stress. Having a family member, a dad, a mom, a brother who is stressed out can also cause a lot of stress upon your life. And these are things that I want you to take stock of. And we're going to talk in the end in more detail of how we can deal with these things, internal and external causes, and have a plan to address these issues. All right. Now there are four types of stress that we generally encounter. The threat kind of a stress. The human trafficking job that I'm doing right now, anti-human trafficking job, there's a lot of threat. There's threat sometimes for my life. One time I was speaking on News 9 and I finished my conversation. I came back and I went pretty hard against human traffickers in our city. And guess what? I started to get threat calls, all right? That causes stress. When threat comes in your life, it causes stress. There's frustration. When a certain expectation is placed on you and you're unable to meet it, you don't have enough resources to meet that expectation. The type of stress that now you're going to be encountering is the stress that comes by frustration. Now I don't have enough time and examples time to get into all the examples, but I would like you to look into, as I'm giving you the pointers, take good notes and look into these issues. Do some research by yourself as well. The third type of stress is pressure, whether it's peer pressure, pressure from your family, pressure from work, expectations from your job, expectations from your assignments that you have to finish. Pressure can also be another type of stress. And finally, I would say conflict, whether it's conflict within relationships, whether it's conflict within yourself, whether it's traumas that has happened to you in the past, and all of that's causing internal conflict. This can also result in a type of stress. Now, when you have stress, where your resources is not meeting the demand, it does have certain effects on you. Okay, the effects of stress can be physical, it can be emotional, and it can also relate in your health. Now, some of the physical effects of stress on you is I've seen people would say, I don't have any sense, I don't have any stress. But then there will be also the same people who are saying, but I have sleeplessness, I have headache, I have tight and sore muscles, I have shaky hands, sweatiness, stomach uneasiness, rapid breathing. All of these are physical effects of stress in you. I've actually dealt with a few of my own counselees that have had these symptoms but have never accepted that they had stress that they were dealing with. So if you do see these symptoms, then again, it's time to step back and say, wait a minute, what's stressing me out? COVID-19 has been a great example. I've talked to so many of my students who've said, sir, I am not able to sleep. I mean, I'm up to like 3 or in the morning, and it's just such a struggle to go to sleep. And it's not like they are sleeping all day. You know, some of them are having a regular day. It's not that they're lazy or anything like that, but it's just the stress of being home, of all these this new normal, adjusting to this new normal that's causing stress upon themselves, and it's causing sleeplessness. All right, tight and sore muscles, etc. So these are physical aspects of stress. Emotional effects of stress could be mood swings, right? You're constantly you're happy in the morning, you're gloomy in the afternoon, and you're hostile in the evening. It's like the weather of Bangalore, right? We just switches so fast. So sometimes the emotional effects can be some severe mood swings. Emotional effects of stress can also be lack of enthusiasm. You don't feel like you want to do anything. Have you ever felt that when you're stressed, you're like, look, I just want to chill out. I want to binge watch TV. I'm on Netflix all day. I want to shut down to the world. That's an effect of stress. And the best thing then to do is not to give in to the lack of enthusiasm, rather to rise above it and fight it, right? How about forgetfulness? That can be another emotional effect of stress, where you're stressed out so much that you're starting to have short-term memory loss about things. And when you see those kind of symptoms, guys, I'm telling you, stop what you're doing, take stock, because you get just one chance in life to go through life, and you don't want to waste your days on things that want to cripple you and crumble you from your vision and the situation that you're facing. Okay, another issue, short-temperedness. When you are heavily stressed, my gosh, you have some temper tantrums. You are bursting out, your emotions are bursting out, all right? This is another symptom, an emotional effect of stress upon you. So if you're having that kind of temperament and it's uncontrollable, again, you need to take stock and ask, what's going on? What do I do about this thing? Okay, so now I've talked about these internal causes and external causes and things to identify, things for you to look up and identify, do I have stress? And if I have stress, I want to talk about what you can do about this, okay? I want to give you a few techniques. My time is almost up. I'll be finishing in another 2 or 3 minutes. I'll finish, and I want to ask, I want you to ask questions and possibly be able to answer them as well. Now, I want to give you a few techniques of what I have practiced for my own life and what has tremendously helped me. Now, when you are stressed, as I already said, it has such a effect on your health. When you are stressed, it has effect on your physical body, even on your health. You get into depression, you get into anxiety. You have some people under stress have fluctuating weight problems. Like I said at the beginning, one of my friends who passed away this last Monday, heart disease because of stress. Digestive problems because of stress, cognitive and memory problems because of people even have skin problems because of stress. All right. So when you have stress, it does affect you emotionally. It does affect you physically. It does have effects even on your health. Okay. So we know that stress is bad. Especially the bad stress is bad for you. Like I said in the beginning, there's good stress which spurs you into action, but then there's also stress that's very debilitating on you, and you have to address those issues. Okay, some techniques to handle stress, and then I'm open for questions. And thank you, students, for being such good listeners, although some of you were curious when we will end the session, and that's okay. I've been a student for a long time, and I kind of understand those feelings. But let's say number one, let's take connecting with people. For me, this has been very helpful for me, especially when I was under immense stress, is to find people that I can talk to, find people that I can connect with, that I can trust, that can speak wisdom and can also be of a moral support with my life in my life. Okay, now I'd like to say this because you all are in a Christian college. The great example, Jesus Christ had 3 people that were his closest circle, right? I want to ask you, who's your close circle? Who's the people that you can go up to and talk? I'll give you a story about my own personal life. I told you about TV9, and after my conversation with them, one specific human trafficker in Bangalore was mad at me for the work we were doing, and actually had found out where I lived, and basically sent death threats for the next 2 weeks. And they pretty much vandalized my office. They broke my car. I went to the Bangalore police commissioner at that time. Mr. M. Reddy was our police commissioner, and Mr. Hari Shekhan was the assistant police commissioner for crime department. And so I had a conversation with them. I said, what can you guys do to help me? And they did everything that they could help me. And I'm very thankful for our police department for sure. I'll tell you what, at that time, though I was going to the police, though I was finding people that could help me, there was still this immense stress because I have 3 kids. I have a family that, I'm concerned about. My car was pretty much trashed by this big gang of 9 guys that, found my car and broke it. It caused a lot of stress. And at that point of time, I was able to find my 3 that were close to me, that I could actually sit and talk with, and who would encourage me and say, you know what, this too will pass. And I tell you, even though I had I had police support. I had the commissioner of Bangalore, Mr. Raymond Reddy, who was personally talking to me, and I had bodyguards, all these different things. I tell you, it was such a beautiful thing to have these three normal human beings who had no political influence, nothing, no power, nothing, except they could sit and connect with me at a heart level where I could talk to them and pour out my heart with them. Have a shoulder to lean on, have somebody to cry with, have somebody to encourage you and say, keep fighting, keep running. You need that connect group, every individual. There is no, that you cannot do life alone, all right? You need people in your life. So the first technique I would say is find your friends that is your confidants. That's somebody that you can talk to, that you can trust. These are not friends because they get something from you. Even if they don't get anything from you, they still want to be your friend. Trust those guys, hold them close to you, all right? Number two, I would say, get out, get active, do some sort of a exercise, hit the gym, do some jogging, do some push-ups, do some pull-ups, because you're home so much. Get into sports, some sort of a physical activity. A few days ago, I saw this thing on YouTube. It's a walking exercise. You do fast walking for 20 minutes at your house, right? And it just enables you to do kick those endorphins into action in your brain. All these chemicals come into action, and all of a sudden you start to feel a lot lesser weight than you usually do. All right. So yes, get mobile, get moving, start doing some sort of a workout. It's going to benefit you. At least 30 minutes every day. You should have some sort of a physical activity where you sweat it out, where you punch it out, or kick it out, or run it out. Whatever you want to do it, do it. That really helps ease the stress. Our culture is big on meditation, on relaxation. We have all these relaxation techniques. We have yoga, these kind of things. If you can take, again, like I said, for workout, if you have 30 minutes to just relax, whatever it is, you watch the show that you love. You have the me time where you are able to, tone it down a notch and step back a little bit and kick your shoes off and chill out. Okay. Also, I would say eating a healthy diet. Choose the foods that you eat. If you see, in these days we are addicted to unhealthy food, and what happens with that is the junk food that you're eating is causing internal stress on your organs. Now that's also going to cause stress in your life. So pay attention to what you eat. A good plant-based diet is always good. I was watching the show on Netflix just the other day called What the Health. What the Health was such a eye-opener to pay attention. If you guys have Netflix, watch it for sure. It'll open your eyes to what you eat is who you are, and what you eat is going to directly correlate with how you're living life. So that's a good thing to focus on. Guys, finally, I would like to say, don't compromise on your sleep. I know that's kind of like the modern fad of today. Everybody likes to have their good time in the night watching and movies and getting through your shows and whatnot. Let me tell you, the less sleep you have, the less cognitive you're going to be during your day. All right? You need your sleep, whether it's 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever suits your body best. Get your sleep. It's definitely not below 5 hours. I know that for sure. So definitely get your sleep at night. It will help you relax a little bit. If you need to take a nap during the day, keep it as short as 20 minutes, but do it. Let it help you relax. Again, Hans Sully actually says, the father of stress, if you'd like to call him that, he says, it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. So we're all going to be stressed. It's inevitable. We're going to be stressed in life. But how do you react to it is the important question that you need to ask. If you see these symptoms of stress in your life, what are you doing about it? If you learn to coexist with it, it's going to debilitate who you are going to be in life. It's going to minimalize your potential in life. Guys, I'm going to say this honestly to you. We are all human beings. We get one chance to go through this world. You get one chance to be a student. You get one chance with all the potential that you have invested in you. Don't let stress distract you. Don't let the pressures of today cripple your vision. It's time for you to address this issue and say, if I'm at a place in life where I am in exhaustion and I have no way that I'm able to get up by myself emotionally, I need to talk to somebody. I need to get to my counselors. I need to find help, because if you don't, it will keep you as a cripple, it will imprison you, and you will end up dying as an old person, dying in regret, who has lost an entire life and an opportunity that they had in front of them. All of you have an opportunity. All of you have your youth, your education right in front of you right now. Make the best of what you have right now, because this chance won't come back again. And if you will invest in you right now, and if you would fight off every foe that wants to cripple your bright future, you will enjoy your future if you would choose to fight right now. So with this, I would like to end my you students. Don't take stress lightly. There is definitely a good part of stress that spurs you into action, but there is a part of stress that cripples you, that exhausts you, and that stops you from running into your vision and being a great accomplisher in life. So I would love for you to ask questions. I'm allowed to take about 10 questions. So at this point, I'm going to mute myself, and I would love for you guys to ma'am's going to bring up the questions, and as she does, whatever I can, to the best of my knowledge, I will answer your questions. Thank you, students, for listening. Thank you, faculty and father, principal, for giving me this opportunity to talk to your lovely students, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for this interesting and knowledgeable session for our participants, which you have done. And I request the participants to post your queries in the chat box. If you have any queries, please post it in the chat box. So there are some questions which is already I've received. So this is a kind of situational questions, huh? Okay, so this girl, she's given a message. Okay, I'm a teenager and I have a relationship, and the family is strongly against my relationship. Due to this, there is always arguments and fights at home, and nowadays I'm not able to concentrate in my studies, and I've lost interest in everything. And how to deal with the situation. So I think the teenagers nowadays, they are facing these kind of problems. So yes. How to deal with this?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for asking that question. And it's true. A lot of students in this day and time have that pressure of being in a relationship. Now, being in a relationship, I'm not completely against it, but I also would like to say two things to you. First, I always encourage my students about timing. Let me say this. You see, God has given us two gifts. One is time, the other is talent, all right? How you use your time and your talents, how you use your time and develop your talents really matters, because if you do it wisely, if you use your time wisely and develop your talents, it will open up opportunities for you in life. Time, talent, and opportunity is something that you need to pay attention to. Now, nothing wrong with relationships, but since you're all in a Christian college, there's a famous Bible verse that actually says that there is a time for everything under the sun. Now, let me be very honest with you. I've been a student, I studied in St. Joseph's College, and at that time, I myself have been in a relationship, and I know how it takes a toll on who you are as a student. Again, nothing wrong with relationships, but there is a timing for it. And if you are a student and you're in a relationship, the relationship places a very heavy demand on you. And my suggestion for students right now is, guys, put it on a hold. You don't have to, I've had students come to my office and say, sir, we don't want to break up. Don't break up, but put it on a hold. You have to have the main thing as the main thing right now. Your family is concerned. I'll tell you why they're concerned. They're concerned because you will stop your education, and they're concerned because what if you quit your education halfway through? What happens to your future? Your education is very important, and at this juncture, if you would put your heart, soul, and mind into this is you investing in you. What happens when you are in a relationship? Now, when you're in a relationship, it starts to take time off of you having time for your education. Now you're under the blanket with the phone. You're spending all night on the phone. You're speaking. You got to have this communication. You're going to have to fulfill the demands that come with that relationship. And many times, as a student living a student life, you don't have the ability to do that. You don't have the time to do that. So my humble and sincere request to you is, I understand where you are right now, and I sympathize with you because it's hard to feel what your family is feeling for you, and say, okay, the stress that comes with that. The family is not supportive, and now you want to give up because, like what we talked about, the emotional effect of stress, lack of enthusiasm for everything in life, pretty much you want to throw in the towel and quit. But let me encourage you. What if you could step back and say, I don't have to quit. There's just a different way to deal with this issue. And that can be, let me put this issue on hold. Let me talk to my boyfriend. Let me talk to my girlfriend, whoever it is, and say, hey, can we take the main thing right now, which is education and life, which is investing in our lives right now. If I would invest in me right now, in my potential right now, I can have a brighter future and a better future in my future. So what can we do right now to make our lives better? And if it's a person who truly loves you, they will honor that decision. All right? So thank you for asking that question. I hope my answer answers your question.
Thank you, sir. There is some more questions. She has asked that she always keeps on having arguments with her mother. So I feel that mother is trying to interfere and control my life. And the other way around, the mother feels that her daughter is going out of the track. So there is always either argument in the house, and sometimes I feel like hurting myself by cutting my hands.
Oh.
So even how to react to such situations.
Okay. Again, thank you for asking that question.
So I'd just like to interfere. Actually, there is one more question which is almost like related to this. Yeah, because majority of teenagers and college students, around 60-30. So there are several issues not only related to career, partner or relationship or food or clothes. Obviously, it is not good to confront them and also can't avoid. So how to overcome such stress? That is, I think the parents they are trying to ask that question. Specifically is discontent with parents on several issues. Not only career, partner, relationship, but also normal matters like food, clothes, etc. Obviously, it is not good to confront them, but also cannot avoid. So how to overcome such stress?
Okay, so let me talk about the first issue. The issue between the tension between the parent and the daughter or the child. This is a sensitive issue because now I have been through both phases of life, and I understand, sometimes parents are overprotective because they are your children. You are their children. Now, right now, for me, I'm overprotective with my daughters. My son, I love him, but then there is that sense of overprotectiveness that comes as a parent, and that's because they love you. All right. Now, that manifests in different ways because the world we live in right now, every 2 years, the culture is changing at such a drastic speed, right? Now, our parents, the culture, the time they were brought up is a completely different era that we have no clue and no understanding about. So there's a certain way they relate, and there's a certain way they have learned how to express love. To us, it can look as it's controlling, it's less freedom, it's hurting me. You're intruding into my personal space. A lot of different things can arise with this issue. All right. One of the things that I have found very helpful in this juncture is to have meaningful conversations, not at your heated moments. All right. Take time off. I've done this. I've taken my mom. I've taken my dad on dates and said, "Hey, let's sit down and talk." I want you to understand what's happened to the world right now with the speed of the internet, with the speed of communication, with the speed of how culture is changing every 2 years. I would like for you to understand what is my psychological makeup, what is my framework of thinking, and let's have conversations rather than spurs or fits of anger where it just bursts at moments of tension. All right. So when we have conversations at cool times where you're able to sit down, and I know this is a difficulty to do, but I encourage you as young people, can I get a date? Can I get an appointment with you for half an hour? All right, I have something that I want to talk to you about, and I think let's have a conversation and come to common grounds on this issue. This really helps. And let me say this to you: You don't have to cut yourself. You don't have to hurt yourself. Self-mutilation is not the answer to this. Conversation is. Every conflict can be resolved if you will decide to do something about it and start, first of all, talking about it. At a cool time, sit and talk to your parents about, this is how I feel about things. When you say this way, this is how it affects me. I tell you, it will bring a lot of healing in parent-children relationship. It will bring a lot of communication. I tell you guys, your parents love you, all right? They just don't know how to express it in a way that's cool enough for you, all right? That's acceptable for you. So what do? Let's build that bridge. Let's build that bridge. Well, the other question, I hope that answers sufficiently. The other question I would say is with clothes and commenting about, again, it's a cultural issue, what's happening. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of things parents think, this is the way it should be done. And there's a lot of things we as young people think, no, this is the way it should be done. The answer, again, I would say is sit and talk about it. Have certain exposure. Let's show. I had to sit with my dad and tell him, hey, this is what it is, and I'm not trying to. I'm trying to relate to my culture. I'm not trying to be living in the 1930s. I'm trying to live in 2020, and the way I relate to this culture is in these ways, you know. And so again, communication helps resolve a lot of conflict and a lot of tension, guys. So I don't have much more time to talk about all of these issues, but I have more pointers. I hope at some point we can talk about this a little bit more. But I would say start there. Start with this heartfelt communication, and that will definitely help. Instead of passing out judgment and saying, you don't know anything about today, helping educate, vice versa. Parents can help us and we can help them. And it will definitely bring a lot of clarity in the relationship. Thank you.